I slept like a baby last night. How about you? If I asked you this question, would you start to have your heart beat fast, your palms get a little sweaty? Would you know how to reply to me? Well, never fear. Today, I want to help you talk about sleep in English. This is a common conversation topic because we all need to sleep. So today, you're going to be able to master it in English. Hi, I'm Vanessa from speakenglishwithvanessa.com. And like always, I have created a free PDF worksheet with all of today's important sleep expressions, definitions, sample sentences, and a sample conversation so that you can practice this yourself. You can click on the link in the description to download that free PDF worksheet today. So first today, we're going to talk about a bunch of important sleep expressions in English. Then you're going to see a sample conversation about sleep between my husband Dan and then it will be your turn to speak with me. We are going to have a practice conversation together. So make sure you pay attention. Take some notes if you need to, and you can repeat this lesson as many times as you want so that you can master it. Let's get started with some sleep expressions in English. If you were a guest at my house and you were staying a few days in my house, in the morning at breakfast, I might ask you this question: how'd you sleep? And today's lesson is going to help give you a lot of options for replying to how'd you sleep. If you slept well, you might say, I slept like a baby. Or I slept like a log. Now, this phrase, I slept like a baby, has always confused me because babies are famous for not sleeping well, right? They wake up a lot and cry in the middle of the night. They think that day is night and night is day. But in English, we use this to mean I slept so well. I slept like a baby. Or if you had a really busy and full day, you might say, I was so tired after our long hike that I just crashed. Or you could say, I was so tired after our long hike that I just passed out. Now, you didn't literally lose consciousness in a passing out kind of way, but this implies that your head hit the pillow and you fell asleep immediately. You had such a long day. Or if you have traveled a long way to come be a visitor at my house, you might say, oh, after that long flight, I was out like a light. You can turn on and turn off a light, and that's kind of the idea for your brain. I was out like a light. I fell asleep immediately. But what if you didn't sleep well? Well, if you're a guest in someone's house, it's probably best not to tell them that you had a terrible night's sleep. But there's still important to be able to have expressions to talk about it. Maybe you want to call home and tell your family or talk to your friends about it, but probably don't tell your host, right? So if you did not have a good night's sleep, you might say this: I didn't sleep a wink. A wink is this, where you close one eye. But in this situation, we're saying I didn't sleep a wink. Or sometimes we say I didn't catch a wink. I didn't catch a wink last night. I was awake all night. Maybe you felt anxious. Maybe the time zone difference was just difficult for you. I didn't catch a wink. Or you might say, I was so anxious about staying in Vanessa's house as her guest that I just tossed and turned all night. I tossed and turned and I couldn't get that restful sleep that I needed. And now it's going to be really hard to speak in English because I didn't sleep last night. I tossed and turned all night. If you're coming to my house to be a guest for a few days, well, you need to pack your bags, prepare your passport, prepare your visa. There's a lot to do. And maybe you procrastinated and didn't do it in advance. You might say something like this: the night before my flight, I pulled an all-nighter. You can kind of guess what this means, right? All-nighter. This means you didn't catch a wink. You were awake all night doing something that usually you should have done in advance, right? So oftentimes when we're in school, especially in college or university, we pulled all-nighters studying for an exam. Not the best idea, but it happens to everyone, right? Notice this verb here, to pull an all-nighter. We're not actually physically pulling something, but this expression always sticks together. We don't use any other verb for this. I pulled an all-nighter. So let's imagine you take your flight, you land in the US, you come to my house, and you say, "Hi, Vanessa," and you just really forget the words that you want to say in English. It happens to everyone at some point, right? You feel frustrated and annoyed at yourself, but you tell yourself, "I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Tomorrow I'll try better." And this phrase, "I'm not going to lose sleep over it," means there's something that frustrates you, but you're not going to let it overtake your mind and overwhelm you. I think this is a really healthy mindset. I was frustrated, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I'm not gonna toss and turn all night thinking about how I made a terrible introduction to Vanessa. No, you're not gonna lose sleep over it. You'll forgive yourself. Move on and try better the next morning. When you show up at my house, I'm probably gonna be very excited to have a guest, to meet my wonderful student. You're here, we're gonna talk all night. But really, you're probably exhausted. So you might need to hint to me that it's time for you to go to bed. So you could say something like this. "Hey, Vanessa, I'm gonna hit the hay. It's been a long day." This just means I'm gonna go to sleep now. Or you might say, "Hey, Vanessa, I'm gonna turn in. It's been a long day." I love this phrasal verb because it's so simple and short. I'm gonna turn in. It's been a long day. Or, in the same idea, you could say, "I'm gonna call it a night. It's been a long day." When you're calling it a night, you're saying, "All right, the night is done. It's time to go to bed. I'm gonna call it a night and go to bed. Hit the hay. I'll see you in the morning." Now, this next expression has a similar idea, but it's a little more nuanced. So let's imagine you're at my house after a long flight. It's your first day here and you're really tired. You look at the clock and say, "Oh, it's past my bedtime. I need to call it a night." Well, bedtime is generally a word we use with children. They have a bedtime. You need to go to bed and be in your bed at 8 p.m. That's your bedtime. But for adults, we can use this in kind of a silly or somewhat lighthearted way. You don't really have a bedtime. No one is telling you, you need to go to bed at 10 p.m. No, but we can use this in a rather joking, lighthearted way. "Oh, it's 10 p.m. It's past my bedtime. I need to call it a night." This is great. You can use it in a joking, lighthearted way, and I use this with my friends if I'm really tired and we're staying up late, playing games. I might say, "Oh, it's midnight. It is past my bedtime." Well, I don't really have a bedtime. No one is telling me, "Vanessa, time to go to bed." But I'm using this in a lighthearted way as an adult, and you can too. If you want to use another lighthearted phrase about going to sleep, you might say, "Oh, okay, I need to call it a night. I need my beauty sleep." Does this phrase exist in your language? I feel like beauty sleep exists in a lot of languages. It's just kind of the silly concept, and it's kind of true that when you sleep, your body is refreshed and you're more beautiful when you sleep more. Have you ever missed sleep for many nights in a row? I know when I had a newborn, I didn't sleep for several months and my face and my body just looked terrible. So it is true, when you sleep better, you look better. But this is a silly expression that we use just to mean I'm tired, I need to go to bed. "Oh, I need my beauty sleep. It's 9 o'clock, time for me to go to bed." It's a little early, but you need your beauty sleep and you can use that in a nice way. All right, so let's go back to the scenario of you are in my house. It is late in the evening after your long flight and we're chatting together. You've had such a busy day. Well, you're interested in what's going on, but your body is just so tired. You might start to nod off, or you might start to doze off. These two expressions we sometimes use in the classroom too. If you have a boring teacher, or maybe you pulled an all-nighter and your body is so tired, you might start to nod off or doze off. And it just means you kind of accidentally fall asleep when you shouldn't fall asleep. I nodded off during the lesson. Hopefully not during this lesson, but it's happened to everyone, right? I remember specifically a time in my geometry class in high school. Geometry was not my subject. And I used to nod off during that class all the time Probably my grades reflected that, but it was really hard for me to pay attention. Well, before you can go to sleep, we talk about our plans for the next day. Do you want to go on a hike? Do you want to go to a brewery? Do you want to visit some friends? What do you want to do? And you're not quite sure. So you could use this great sleep expression and say, I'm not sure yet what I want to do tomorrow, but I'll sleep on it. I'll sleep on it. You're not really sleeping on top of our plans, but this means that while you're sleeping, you hope that you'll get some clarity about what you should do. And I love to use this expression when I have some kind of big decision to make, like which school should my kids go to, or which vacation should we take? These are big decisions, and you can't make those immediately. It's at least not a good idea to make those immediately. So I will use this to say, I don't know right now, but let me sleep on it, or I would like to sleep on it, and we can talk about it again tomorrow. This is a very wise thing to do. So you're gonna sleep on whatever plans you wanna make for tomorrow, and we'll talk about it in the morning. Finally, after such a long day, it's time for you to go to sleep. What will I say to you? Well, I could say one of two things. I might just say, sweet dreams, or I might say, sleep tight. And this phrase, sleep tight, is short for a longer phrase. Sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, I can guarantee you there are no bed bugs in my house, but this is kind of an old phrase. I think these phrases exist in a lot of languages that we just kind of bring from the past and use in the present. And oftentimes we cut it short and just say, sleep tight. Or we might say just, sweet dreams, sleep tight, I'll see you in the morning. Finally, time for you to hit the hay. Well, congratulations, you made it to the US, you made it to my house, we had a great conversation, you fell asleep, you slept peacefully like a baby, so you wake up the first morning after being at my house, we're eating breakfast, and you tell me, Vanessa, I had the strangest dream last night. I dreamt that we went to this giant house. There was a bowling alley in the house. There was a swimming pool in the house, and it had giant rose gardens and forests and animals. And I say to you, oh, that's very strange because that house, the Biltmore house, is the largest house in the US and it's in my city. Maybe that's what we should do today. Do you want to go to the Biltmore house together today? So in your dream, you had this premonition of what we were going to do the next day. I like this expression. I had the strangest dream last night because almost every dream is strange, right? If you had an especially bad dream, you could say something like this. Oh, Vanessa, I had a nightmare last night that I totally forgot English and I couldn't say anything to you. I had a nightmare. Nightmares are always bad. Dreams could be good or bad, but a nightmare is always bad. And don't worry, if you came to visit me, I'm sure you would not forget all English. All right, you just learned a bunch of great sleep expressions in English, and now it's time to use it in a conversation. You're going to watch a sample conversation about sleep between my husband Dan and I want you to pay attention. Pay attention to the phrases we use. See if you recognize any of those from the lesson that we just had, because after this sample conversation, it's going to be your turn. You're going to speak in English with me about sleep. But first, let's watch the sample conversation. Hey Dan, how'd you sleep last night?
Not great. I tossed and turned all night.
Oh no, what's wrong?
Well, earlier this week I pulled an all-nighter to finish a project, and the next day I nodded off during a really important meeting.
Oh no, was your boss mad at you?
Yeah, he says he wants to see me in his office tomorrow morning.
Oh, well, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. You're a hard worker and he knows it.
I hope you're right. Well, I better call it a night and get some sleep.
Yeah, well, sleep tight, and I'm sure everything will work out fine.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right, now it's time for you to speak with me in English about sleep. I'm going to be asking you a few questions about sleep, and then I'm going to pause. And during that pause, I will be listening to you around the world. No matter where you live, I have magic teacher ears. I can hear you. So make sure that you speak out loud, you answer my question, and if you need more time, you can always pause this video, and you're welcome to go back and repeat this section as many times as you need to. That's the beauty of learning English online. All right, are you ready? Let's do it. So tell me, how did you sleep last night? Well, thanks for telling me. I want to know, have you ever pulled an all-nighter? Why? Yeah, one time I pulled an all-nighter too because I totally forgot about an exam that I had for college until the night before. Oh, I absolutely lost sleep over that. What about you? Have you ever lost sleep over something? Well, thanks for sharing with me. I think everyone loses sleep and feels anxious about stuff. It's just a normal part of being human, right? Thanks so much for sharing with me, and I'll talk to you again another time. Bye. Well, great work learning how to speak in English about sleep today. Don't forget to download the free PDF worksheet with all of today's important sleep vocabulary, definitions, sample sentences, and you can see the entire transcript of the conversation between Dan and I about sleep and the questions for our sample conversation so that you can write out your answers, practice them out loud, and practice speaking in English about sleep. You can do it. Just click on the link in the description to download that free PDF worksheet today. Well, thanks so much for learning English with me, and I'll see you again next Friday for a new lesson here on my YouTube channel. Bye. But wait, do you want more? I recommend watching this video next, where you will learn how to speak in English about your house, including how to ask politely for help when you need help doing chores around the house. Do you know how to do that? Well, I'll see you in that video to find out.